Welcome back. Today we are going to be looking at this axe. And I got this at a garage sale. It's old, it's been sitting in a garage a long time, and the handle's really loose. So we're going to look at how to fix that without just driving a bunch of nails or wedges or screws into the top of the handle. We're going to take a look at how to clean this axe up and clean this handle up and get them fit back together so that this is a solid tool and it's ready to go back to work. The first thing that we're going to do is get this head off of the handle. Now, if we were replacing the handle, then that would be easy. We just cut it off and hammer the pieces of the handle out. But we're saving this handle. So what we're going to do is try to pull these wedges out and see if we can tap this handle back out of the head of the axe. So this metal wedge is sticking up just a little bit, but it's not quite enough to grab onto with any sort of pliers. And I'm just going to drill a little hole in there and then put a screw in here to pull this wedge out. And this side of the wedge over here, there is like epoxy or glue or something. There's not any on this side. Maybe there was a crack or a hole or something and they just put some super glue or something on there and pounded that metal wedge in. So that's why it's so stuck. Finally, the pieces of the wooden wedge here, try drilling a little hole, sticking a screw in, see if we can pop those out. So when you've got a wedge like this, a piece of this wedge that is not going to come out, this looks like it is glued in on this side maybe. This piece just pulled right out. This half not coming out. There's a couple things we can do. One, we can just drill a bunch of holes in there and try to collapse that wedge down as much as we can. Another thing that works really well is an oscillating tool and just dropping the blade of an oscillating tool down in here. That works really nicely. I'm just going to drill a couple of holes. So I've got the wedge out. Next, we're going to pound the handle back out of the head. This is a piece of another axe handle, and I'm just going to use this as a drift to knock this handle back out of the head. Once that's done, I'm going to take the handle, clean it up first. It will be the easiest. Just going to take a card scraper and scrape this paint off. After that handle's clean, I'll grab the angle grinder with a wire wheel. There's not much rust on here, just a few little spots. And I'll clean this head up really quick and we will get ready to put these back together. This handle is still really solid and in really good shape, so I'm going to get rid of this shelf right here, and we're going to bring that down and we're going to sit the head of the axe down lower. We've still got a bit of room above this shoulder here, so we're just going to drop this head down and get it so it sets nice and solid somewhere down here. It looks like at some point someone used a grinder or something on this axe head. You can see some grinder marks. There's some fairly deep ones over there. This side, not so much. There is a little bit of some mushrooming here on the back where this was used as a hammer. I might just knock the edge off with a file. So we'll take that off. Not much cleanup needed. Before we start fitting it back together, I'm going to bevel the edge around the bottom of the eye here. That makes it a little bit neater of a fit up, and it prevents this sharp shelf like this. This just makes a weak spot in the handle when you have this shelf here where the head is cutting into the handle. So we're ready to start fitting this back together. A couple of things we'll need. We're going to need a pencil. We're going to need a hammer, preferably something like this. This is a soft blow hammer, just a cheap one from Harbor Freight. And then we'll need something to remove material. Now, I was using a chisel and a card scraper, and that will definitely work. Or to make things go a little faster, Dremel tool or rotary tool, this little sanding drum on there. Let's put this on. So what I like to do is take my pencil and sharpen it first, I guess. Okay, we take our pencil and we're going to just scribble some lead on this nice beveled edge. We're going to tap the bottom of the handle with a hammer and just drive it up here a little bit and see where it stops. Well, it actually is a pretty good fit. I probably could just drive a wedge in there and call that good, but I would like it to sit down just a little further. I want to be able to trim some of this off, some of this that I kind of dug at and damaged up here. Just gonna tap the top here. And that pencil that I drew in there, I can see a nice line all the way around where it is hitting and areas where it is not hitting. So I'm going to use that Dremel tool, or you could use a your card scraper or whatever else. And I'm just going to remove a little material where that pencil mark is so that I can put the head back on, and we'll just try to get it to sit a little bit further down. Scribble around here a little. And you can see we went down a little further. It's fitting really well. There's not any gaps. A little bit at the front, but can't make the handle wider. I've got my handle down to where I want it. So before we put this together, the last thing to do is get my wedge ready. Now, these are some pre-cut wedges from Whiskey River Trading Company. I'm just going to cut it down to here. There's my wedge. So this is where the bottom of the axe head sits. You can see the kerf is cut down there, just about, it would be about halfway down. I'm just going to cut it a little further down, so it's about 2/3 of the way down. We're ready to put this thing together. Let's get our head on the handle. And there we go. And we're going to drive the head down onto the handle as snug as we can and get it seated really well down here. Nice and tight, no gaps, and there's also no splintering or cutting. The head's not cutting into the axe handle and making a shelf. Now the wedge is going to need to be trimmed down, but I like to start it in, get it tapped in a little bit, and then I will trim the wedge down to fit the back and the front of the eye of the axe, kind of as I drive it in. A couple ways you can drive a wedge in. You want to get it set on something solid. You can drive the top of the wedge down this way. That works, especially for getting it started. What I like to do is flip the axe over, put the wedge on the floor so that the entire wedge is sitting on the floor, and drive on the handle. Not going too hard. You can see the little curl there because this wedge is a little bit too wide. So what I'm going to do is take a chisel. A box cutter works really well for this too. And I'm just going to shave this wedge down a little bit just to get this little curl out of here. Up here on the front, same thing. I'm just going to shave the wedge a little bit so that it is matching the contours of the eye. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, let's turn it back over and tap it a little more. The last little bit, I like to get a little bit of a heavier hammer, and we'll just give it a few more whacks. Really get that wedge down in there. So that is about as far as that wedge is going in. This was a very big wedge, so it's probably down pretty close to the bottom of that kerf, I think. It went quite well. I didn't split the wedge in half. It's fit pretty close, exactly with the shape of the eye, except for back here, and that's just because the handle is missing a little chunk. Here's the wedge, trimmed down and sanded. So this just needs some finish put on the handle. Typically, I use like boiled linseed oil when I'm refinishing handles, but that's just because that's what my dad used and my grandpa used. And so I'm going to try this. This is Axe Wax. This is made in Oregon. Since I was also made in Oregon, I thought I would give this a shot. My heat gun over here. I'm just going to warm the handle up, then rub the Axe Wax into the handle. That feels kind of warm. I don't know how warm it's supposed to be, but I mean, it's like 80 degrees here in the garage, so it's warmer than that. All right, let's try putting this stuff on here.
A few moments later.
We got this thing finished up. You guys let me know what you think. If you've got any projects that you're working on, let me know about Axe Wax. If you have used this or similar things. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you next time.